Welcome back to the newest installment of the House Hunter's Handbook. This is part 2. Of course, my name is Jeremy Williams, your trusted real estate broker, and in part 1 we talked about how to do market research, create a budget, and then of course the criteria for finding that right house. This one is very exciting. This is what most people get into, is finding your dream home, starting the home search. So we're going to talk about how do we find that right house, what should we be looking for when we're walking through those houses, and of course how do we identify the right house for you and negotiate it. So very exciting series for you. Let's get into it. In today's world, in order to find the perfect property, we have to have a strategic approach to identifying all the options possible. So what we do first is we take that criteria that you were looking at, that top 20 list that we created from the first video. And of course we had those first 5 to 10 that are the non-negotiables, and then there's the like to have. We put them into a property search in our what we call our multiple listing service. This is a database that has all the information for the properties locally that are for sale through the Realtors Association. And in that database we have a lot more information than what you'll see on the different websites that you may be searching. So we'll be able to dial it in even a little bit further. From that we're going to get a list of properties. Now from that list, sometimes I like to keep the search a little bit more broad than what we're actually looking for, because we don't want to miss something on the fringe. And of course we're going to email those properties to you as soon as they come on the market. So that's the first level for trying to find the right property. From there, when we got a really clear understanding of the types of neighborhoods you like and the types of houses, we're going to go out and we're going to call neighborhoods. We might send them cards. Sometimes we'll even knock on doors for houses that might fit that criteria to see if there are possibilities. We're also going to call the for sale by owners and see if there might be a good fit for you. And also homes that were on the market that are no longer in the market. It could be a possibility that that's still an option. So having an approach where we first reactively see all the homes that are coming on the market, know that market, but then also directly going out and trying to find properties is the best way to ensure that we're going to find you the best property possible. Now that we've identified the possible properties that fit your criteria, it's now the fun part, setting up the showings and actually going and seeing them. Now, a couple things to think about when we're setting up showings. First, sometimes we have to work around the seller's schedule, so they might need 24-hour notice. We're not always in a spot where we can get you in right away. Even in today's market, it's important that if a really good property comes on the market, that we see it as soon as possible, because some of them are still selling quick. Sometimes, if you can't get out for work, we might go out and actually do a video tour of it just to see and give yourself an option when you might not have one otherwise, if you got constraints like you can't get out of work or kids or some other obligation. So being flexible to showings, when we do set up a tour, I like to keep it under 5 homes at a time. I find when we look at over 5 homes at a time, at the end of the day, your favorite home is kind of a blend of all of them. It's hard to remember what the first couple might be like. When we keep it small, it gives us a chance to really understand the houses and remember what each feature has. I recommend taking notes. When you show properties with us, we give you the information about the house in a section where we could take notes of what you liked and what you don't like. Now, when we're seeing properties, you're not going to offend me. So if we're going around and you're like, this house is terrible, no reason to spend extra time there. Let's move on to the next one. But the more input that I could get, things that you like, things you don't, is going to help me even continue to narrow down that list, even as we're looking at homes. So the goal is, while you're out getting a feel for the house, when you're going through, try to imagine it with no other furniture in it and then with your stuff in it, because everybody decorates and lives a certain way. Try to visualize how you're going to live in this space. Would it work for Thanksgiving? Where your kid's going to be sleeping? How the house works for your needs. While you're doing that, I'm also going to be looking around and saying, hey, does this house qualify for certain types of loans? What I mean by that is, is the roof in good enough condition? Is there chipping paint? Is there other things that you might not notice on a first showing that we should keep in mind? So after we do that, we're going to identify the top properties that fit your criteria. As you view different properties, there's a couple things that we need to take into consideration to evaluate which property is going to be the right property for you. There's a lot of times when we start digging into the condition, for instance, that a property that's a little bit more expensive might actually be a less expensive house in the long run. What I mean by that is, if you're looking at 2 houses and they're relatively the same square footage, but One of them's less money, but most likely needs a new roof in the next 3 to 5 years, new windows, new siding. It just has a lot of deferred maintenance that it hasn't taken on to. But then there's a more expensive house that's had some of those things that have already been done to the home. That might actually be a less expensive house in the long run. So we spend a lot of time trying to figure out where your comfort level is in the condition of the house. And we have a lot of times where people come in and say, hey, we can do a lot of work to the house. We want to do a fixer-upper ourselves. That's a great idea. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for fixer-uppers and they create extra equity by doing some work yourself, but please keep in mind, of course, the materials still cost money and it takes time. A lot of people that we worked with is like, hey, I didn't realize that I had to go to my full-time job and then I had to come home and then I'd work each night or over the weekends to get that work done. It was a lot bigger process than we thought. So some people are well equipped for that. Other people like to dabble, but it might not be the best fit for them. Like I said, a little bit more expensive house that has some of that work done might actually be the better home. So trying to find out where you fit on the spectrum. Most likely in today's market, there's something that we're going to be having to compensate on and understand what we can and can't compensate on to make sure it's still the right house for you. So of course, neighborhoods, parks, access to maybe schools, buses, those kind of things are also going to come into play. From there, we're going to pick the best option and we're going to make an offer. Now you found your dream home, it's time to make an offer. Here's a couple thoughts on making an offer. First, everything has to be in writing. The document that we use is about a 9 to 12 page document that goes through all the details and sets up the obligations between you as the buyer and the seller. So everybody has a clear picture and clear path to how to move forward in the transaction if we're able to get under contract. When you go to making an offer, we're there to assist you. We actually put together what we call a comparative market analysis to get an idea of value of the house that we're looking at compared to the other homes that we've seen to help guide you in how we negotiate the price. We also look at the market conditions to see if it's a market where we should be offering over asking price or might have a chance to get under asking price. Really taking all these things into account to make sure that we can make the best offer possible and something that we can work with the sellers on. Of course, we also bring in the lender because there's times where we might ask for closing costs to be paid or rates to be paid down, and we craft all this together in writing to make sure that we have all the details that we need to be able to protect you moving forward. Finding your dream home is an exciting journey, and with the right approach, it could be a smooth and easy process. If you have any questions or need assistance with viewings, please don't hesitate to reach out. And of course, subscribe to these videos so you don't miss any part of the process. The next part, we're going to be dedicating a video to one of the most important parts of the whole process, which is the securing a loan. If you have any questions in the meantime, you can always reach me on my cell. Number's 406-531-1519, and happy house hunting.